Good morning. It is December 20th, 2019, and I am behind. And so we are going to unpack Luke chapter 19 this morning. Zacchaeus. Zacchaeus was a wee little man, and a wee little man was he. You sang the song. Jesus is entering into Jericho. He was passing through it because, as we know, he is on his way to Jerusalem. We've established that, right? Zacchaeus is a chief tax collector, which means he's the boss of all the tax collectors, also meaning he's even more of an outcast because of that position. It tells us that he was short in stature. He's a shorty. And so the crowd is pressing in, and we know the story. He climbs on up a sycamore tree for the Lord he wanted to see. And so backing up, we'll go to verse 10 and back up a little bit. For the Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost. What does it mean to be lost? Well, we might lose our health. Man, that's a big one, right? Or our reputation, losing a loved one, losing our job. Here, Jesus means the loss of soul. When we lose our peace and our joy and our love because of self-centeredness or greed or lust, you turn to Galatians chapter 5 and all of those fruits of the Spirit. And then right underneath there, we get the things that rob us of peace in our soul. Jesus' mission is to seek and to save. It's our mission too. We are not saviors, but we do point to the one who does save in and through Jesus Christ. You are saved. It is our job to seek. That is our job. That is part of discipleship. We can't just wait for people to come to us. We can't just wait for people to step inside of our churches. It doesn't work that way, friends. It just does not. So both Levi and Zacchaeus are tax collectors. We saw that in the call of Levi. Matthew, he was a tax collector. Interestingly, Jesus dines with both, and at both dinner conversations, the Pharisees are grumbling. If we look at this story in contrast to the rich ruler, we had that a couple days ago, both are rich, both are people in authority. The rich ruler fails to respond to the requirement to give away his wealth. Here, Zacchaeus gives away half his wealth without even being told. The story of the rich ruler ends with, it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than a rich man to enter the kingdom of God. And Zacchaeus ends with, today salvation has come to this house. Next, we get that parable of the 10 pounds. I really had to do some digging to understand it, quite frankly. So, if we're having trouble, don't think you're the Lone Ranger here. So we know what's going to happen when Jesus gets to Jerusalem. And even though he's told the disciples again and again, when the disciples are thinking about this kingdom come that Jesus is talking about, what they are thinking of is when Jesus gets to Jerusalem, he's going to show those Romans, he's going to turn over that government all the way to kingdom come. He's going to overthrow that. That's not what this kingdom come means. We know that. So there's this nobleman and 10 slaves and 10 pounds, but we only see three of the slaves mentioned here. And this ruler, this nobleman, is going on an extended trip to be crowned king. While he's gone, he assigns these 3 slaves to invest his money. The first 2 take some risks, and they invest, and they yield. The third one plays it safe, and no yield. Well, he gets back, and he commends the 2 for taking the risk, and he scolds the one who does not, and he commands all who oppose him to be killed. So right before entering Jerusalem, that's where we are at here, right before entering Jerusalem, before he's crowned king. Blessed is the king that comes in the name of the Lord. We're going to see that in a few minutes here. Here in this parable, Jesus is the nobleman. The nobleman in the story, he says, invest my money in my absence. What Jesus is saying is invest. Preach, teach, tell others about me. Do that in my absence. Here's the deal. If we can say that Jesus is king in our life, well, it's going to be risky. Life will be risky as disciples. We saw that. Take up your cross and follow me. If you want to be my followers, take up your cross. Well, that's not a comfortable deal. We can't just duck and cover. Discipleship is not cushy and comfortable. Although, man, I would like it to be some days, because it ain't easy, It's just not. So Jesus condemns the third servant who played it safe. We'll see now, as we enter into Holy Week, how this risky business continues to play out. And as we think of that in coinciding with the Christmas story, here we are on the cusp of Jerusalem and the crucifixion and resurrection, and we're also on the cusp of the birth narrative as well, aren't we? Well, we're going to see that the Christmas story was not cushy either. It wasn't for Zechariah and Elizabeth. It wasn't for Mary and Joe. Certainly wasn't for John the Baptist. We know how that turned out, right? And all of the people that Jesus healed and then proclaimed, all the outsiders. It might have been cushy for some of the insiders, the Pharisees. All right. Is your heart ready to step into Jerusalem? Because it's Palm Sunday. You're in the text anyway. We are on the last leg of our journey here in Luke. Tuesday will be Christmas Eve, and Jesus will be resurrected. We'll get the walk to Emmaus, where he reveals himself in the breaking of the bread. He's going to drop in on the disciples, and he's hungry. He asks for some fish, and then he ascends in the end of Luke. And we'll see that ascension in Luke is a bridge into the book of Acts. We'll talk about that when we get there, okay? So one of the things you can do if you want just a little extra homework is go through all of the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and take a look at how they see the Palm Sunday, the triumphal entry, because there's differences. I usually do that during Lent. I've done a sermon on that and stuff too, but you don't get extra points if you do this. Well, maybe you do. If you leave me a comment, I might buy you a treat of some sort, letting me know that you did. Okay? So here in Luke, Bethany and Bethage, that's where we're at. It's just right on the base of the Mount of Olives here. And Jesus sends 2 disciples to go get a colt. All the Gospels tell that just a little bit differently. Some disciples are named. There's 2 donkeys in one, and you'll have to check it out, okay? Here we have a colt that's never been ridden. He says, if anyone asks why you're untying it and taking it, just say the Lord needs it. They lay their cloaks on the colt, and they set Jesus on top of it. Now, there's joyful praise here, with loud voice, it says, for all the deeds of power. I had missed that, all the deeds of power before. Speaking of Jesus and all the things that he did, the powerful things that he did. And they're saying, blessed is the King who comes in the name of the Lord, peace in heaven, and glory in the highest heaven. They shout different things in the different gospel accounts, and you'll see that. But here's why Luke's portrayal of this is my absolute favorite. In Luke, we get singing rocks. We get singing rocks. The Pharisees say, teacher, tell your disciples to just be quiet. All right, Jesus says, fine, but even if I did that, the rocks are still going to sing. The rocks are going to shout out. There's nothing that's going to stop this here. We get singing rocks here in Luke. Isn't that beautiful? The Pax Romana, Paxroman, means peace of Rome. This Holy Week is not going to be peaceful. It's not going to be peaceful. The Passover festival is beginning, and the Pharisees are nervous because, of course, Jesus is in town, and they know there's going to be some unsettledness, and they don't want to mess it up with Governor Pilate. because it's going to not look favorable for them. So they're trying to keep the peace of Rome, everybody is. Jesus here is ushering in a new kind of peace, the peace of Rome. So where was your peace? Did you find any peace yesterday? One of the things that I did, I was home here all day yesterday. Something that brought me just a little bit of peace was I finally got some Christmas presents wrapped, the ones that I have anyway. I still got a couple more things to buy. And then I had a couple good conversations with some colleagues, and that brought me peace. Next, we get Jesus weeping over Jerusalem. Here it says that he actually wept 2 places in the New Testament. At the tomb of Lazarus, his dear friend, he wept. And here, weeping over Jerusalem. As he's riding into town, in the midst of all the cheers, he's weeping. There's a finality about this. What could have been if you, even you, meaning Jerusalem, had only recognized on this day the things that make for peace. The day will come when your enemies will set ramparts around and hem you in. He's talking about the destruction of their temple and the invasion of the temple by the Roman Emperor Titus. And we're going to see that here today as we look in chapter 20. You did not recognize the time of your visitation from God, it says. That resembles the nativity too, doesn't it? Then we get the cleansing of the temple. Then he entered the temple. Scene change. Then he entered the temple and he drove out those selling things. My house shall be a house of prayer, but you've made it a den of robbers. Every day he was teaching in the temple. The chief priests, the scribes, the leaders of the people kept looking for a way to kill him. But they did not find anything that they could do, for all the people were spellbound by what they heard. Again, risky business, right? House of prayer. Prayer and divine revelation are interwoven here in Luke. Have you noticed that again and again? He prayed before he chose the 12. We had Lord teach us to pray. Yesterday, or the day before that, he says, don't pray like the Pharisees. And he talks about this house of bandits who don't help the poor, but retreat into the walls of the sanctuary. These pastors are hiding in their office. Even as he is heading to his death, Jesus is still proclaiming the good news, especially to those on the fringes. Today we get the authority of Jesus questioned, the parable of the wicked tenants, paying taxes. All of these are questions that especially those in power are trying to trap him in. Can you feel the tension building? The last leg of the journey here. The last leg of the journey. Today, perhaps some of you teachers are also on your last leg of journey before Christmas break, and you're doing a whoop whoop, and I imagine the kids are a little bit wild today, and so I'm praying for you. Our beautiful daughter-in-law is also a teacher. In just a few minutes here, I will be heading to Sioux Falls. Our dear Betty is also beginning the last leg of her journey here on earth into heaven. So prayers for Crystal and Joel and the boys and everyone who loves Betty. In fact, my car is running, but I wanted to get yesterday's at least posted here. I'm having trouble with getting my videos off my phone, and I want to save them. I don't want to delete them. I want to keep them for Ryan and Dax, so we'll figure it out. So I will see you later on tonight. Blessings on your day.